I have been doing a lot of research in terms of looking at how schools and the approach to schooling is changing, and I wanted to share an example with you today. As a mother, I really think about what is my role as a parent. I'm deeply intrigued about giving him the skill sets that will help him independently sort of navigate through life. And that's how I see my role. And so one of the things I'm really interested in is a lot of these different concepts that help and strengthen a child's development in being able to do that. And as I started to sort of look into this whole entire space, I came across a really interesting article by a woman who spent the last 15 years basically studying people and why they hate their jobs. And here's something that she says. Finding a career path that makes us feel satisfied and successful isn't easy. It's not something they teach you in school, which makes the journey that much more challenging. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is you hear a lot about high school kids, especially now, who, feel quite anxious about going to college, not only because of the cost, how much it's costing people in terms of student loan debt, of finding the right college and getting into the right college, but there's also a lot at stake. I do think there's a lot of fear around it in terms of, finding the right degree, getting into the right school, finding the right path in life. And I'm definitely seeing a lot of kids that are coming out of college that are confused. They're like, I don't necessarily think this is what I want to do in life, but here I've already invested so much time and money, and so therefore I should just probably continue. So in fact, this Inc. article continues to talk about this problem about people sort of getting stuck in the life paths that they're not necessarily passionate or interested about. So she continues on. She says, we spend 1/3 or more of our days at work. Work defines us as people. When we aren't happy at work, other areas of our life suffer. And then she continues, how many times have you heard about people who end up sick, depressed, divorced, abusing substances, all because they're unhappy with their careers? What if they like their jobs instead? Couldn't significantly improving attitudes towards work have a huge impact on the health and welfare of our society? I have a very strong belief that when people do things that they're really into and they're really passionate about and feel fulfilled by, they're much more happier in life. I think this idea about passion and purpose is just recently being widely talked about. You have multiple different authors and people in the industry that talk about companies who need to find their purpose and their mission, that it shouldn't just be about making money for money's sake. It should be about contributing to greater society. And I believe that us as human beings are starting to realize that as well, is what is our purpose in life? How do we contribute on an individual basis towards the greater good? And I have a very strong feeling that as our children age and time progresses, this is going to become much more important for children. That it's not just going to be about you finding a job so you can help and, pay for your housing and to be able to put food on the table. I do think that there's going to be much more awareness about the sense of fulfillment in our existence in the world. I actually came across a school that is very much based in that idea that you can start exploring sort of your skill sets and passion points and the things that you're interested in a lot earlier in life, that you don't have to wait until high school or college in order to be able to do that. So I came across a woman that I'm incredibly fascinated by. She has started a new school concept, and the school concept for young children starting from toddlerhood all the way to grade 12 is around the idea of helping children finding their life's work.
And I started to realize how much of education is fear-based, because a lot of parents are so scared and they want to get their kid into one school, so they'll get into another school and then another school, and the end game of this whole thing is a good job. And I was like, why are we thinking about a good job? Why aren't we defining success as a good life?
And what that means is basically helping to tune in to what is the child's natural abilities and skill sets in order to be able to cultivate what is it that they can do in order to contribute to society. She talks a lot about children really honing in on their superpowers in order to be able to cultivate their life's work. I find this incredibly fascinating, and some of you might be thinking, what are you talking about? What do you mean superpowers? So the way that she defines superpowers is the fact that every single person, every one of us, has something really unique, whether we have discovered it or not. It's within us. We have really unique traits and abilities that differentiate us from other people. And the idea is when we really hone in to those things that are really special and unique about us, and we use those skill sets in order to contribute to society, is when we start doing our life's work.
Having grown up in New York and, going to one of the most prestigious middle and high schools and on to an Ivy League and all of that.
You went to private schools your whole life.
I actually was in public until 7th, which I liked.
Yeah.
And I liked, Horace Mann, where I went to private as well as Cornell. They were all great schools academically.
Yeah. Yes.
But I didn't feel that any of these institutions were, as part of their mission, trying to cultivate whole, compassionate human beings who were in touch with whatever their superpower might be and teaching how to use that power to help the planet. That wasn't kind of part of what was happening there. It was more like, this is what's happening regardless of who you are and what your gift may or may not be, and we're going to judge you and assess you on this very kind of simple scale, which you just laid out.
Structure, yeah.
I don't believe in the concept of some kids being gifted and talented. I think that's one of the most bogus things I've ever heard of in my entire life. Every human is gifted and talented.
Yeah.
It's just if we're lazy and we're going to limit gifted and talented to one IQ, whatever, that's the issue's on the adults, not the children, because the children are all perfect.
One of the unique things about the school that I came across that I found really intriguing is that they don't teach children just the foundational basics of math, sciences, the arts, but they also integrate a lot of mindfulness into the curriculum. So it's about teaching kids not just those hard skill sets, but some of those softer skill sets about managing their emotions and exploring things beyond themselves. So when you look at the school's curriculum, they talk about having 6 pillars of growth. And I wanted to explore this a little bit because I find their curriculum incredibly fascinating. So the first pillar is mind, and those are teaching kids the basics about math, sciences. They introduce alternative languages as well, such as Hebrew and Mandarin, which I thought was really intriguing. The second one is body. So it's the idea that we all have bodies and they're not meant to sit in a school for hours on end just listening to a teacher. So they do a lot of what they talk about in terms of exercises and doing yoga and really moving their bodies. If you have small children, kids have a really hard time sitting in one spot for a really long time. So this school really kind of taps into that, is the fact that children need to be moving their bodies. They have a lot of energy, and that energy can't be stagnant. It needs to be moving around. The third one, which I particularly love a lot, and I think this is what makes the school incredibly special, is the soul. So one of the things that I came across is that they're teaching kids the basics of gratitude. So being really thankful of just the things that are around them and teaching them that discipline, as well as meditation and some of the other Eastern ways of being able to hone in on yourself and calm your body down. I think that's incredible. It's definitely one of the things that I really want to and am looking forward to exploring with my son. I myself have been dabbling in meditation and really exploring what is the right practice for me. And I definitely know that when I practice gratitude and meditation for myself, it really helps me to ground me in so I can be really productive throughout my day and to be able to really take on a lot of the challenges that I face throughout my day to day. So the fact that they're teaching this to children from a really young age, I think is absolutely incredible. When we look at the fourth growth pillar, conscious creators. So this is really interesting because it's that idea of when you're doing your life's work is what are you doing that's helping to contribute to society. And so they want to utilize curriculum in that way to be able to start introducing children of, if you have an idea for a business or if you want to be in something, how is that helping other people? How is your contribution in doing that is helping other people? So I thought that was really intriguing. The fifth one is arts, so about creative expression through not just the idea of making things, but also music. And then the sixth one is nature. It's the idea of really being connected to our planet and the earth. And so because the school is based in New York City, the owners of the school, I believe, if I'm correct, have their own farm, and so they take children out to grow vegetables, teach them basically science from that perspective of how do you plant seeds and make them grow, and really start tapping into how do you produce your own food, which I think is incredibly interesting. That it's not just about teaching children textbook ideas, but really getting them out there and experiencing some of this through doing. One of the things I also learned from them is that children feel a real sense of ownership, and as they have different ideas of doing something, children aren't just exposed to one person that's teaching them, but as children start exploring these different things that they're interested in, they're able to couple them with people who are already doing that. So they're learning from an adult who can sort of pave the path and show them the way. And I think that's incredibly interesting, because if you think about it, our children today, or sort of the teenagers and young adults, aren't doing that until they're really graduating college or getting closer to graduating college, where they're starting to do internships to learn how do they apply of what they learned in school in order to be able to gain some of those like real world skills in order to be able to get a job. So this school is already doing that at an incredibly young age, where they're, toddlers and very young elementary school kids are already starting to explore some of this. And I find this incredibly fascinating and refreshing that the child isn't just about learning topics, but they're able to explore and apply them throughout their learning. I did want to touch upon one really important aspect that maybe some of you are thinking. So one of the things that WeGrow is teaching children is basically based on your passions and interests and your superpowers, you are able to design the life that you want to live in order so you can do your life's work and then contribute to society. Some people would argue is that not everybody can do that. We cannot have, 7 billion people in the world just all out doing their own thing. I would argue is that knowing what your superpower is and knowing what you are good at actually, I believe, helps you fit into society. So not everybody needs to be out starting companies. Not everybody has the skill sets or even the passion or the motivation to do their own thing. Some people literally want to go work together with other people that share the same values, that share the same purpose, and that is what makes them feel fulfilled, where they are able to hone in and tap in what is their unique contribution, maybe towards that group of people. And other people will go work for other companies, but it's the idea is when we internally know what is it that we're good at, what is it that where we can contribute, I think we have a much better job of being able to select the career paths that are much more better fit for us. And before I end this video, I actually wanted to bring up this one book, which is called Alive at Work. And this particular book I found really intriguing. It basically says the neuroscience of helping your people love what they do. The book, in a nutshell, basically talks about that if you are a bus driver, if you are doing some of these more collective tasks that help run companies, a lot of people feel like, oh, that is just menial, work, and it's this sort of end day-to-day grind. But he says what actually helps people like light up is when they reframe what is their actual role within that job. So if you are somebody who, drives people from point A to point B, this person talks a lot about how when you get into the mindset of, I am not just driving a bus, I am here to make sure that everybody has an amazing ride and that they get from point A to point B. My task and my role here is to help people to get from one end to the other. If I wasn't here, they wouldn't be able to do that. And I'm helping them do so many other things because they're able to get from point A to point B. So it's this idea that people reframe what is their collective contribution towards a specific task. And I believe that when we are able to tap in much more towards the things that we're good at and our sense of fulfillment, we're able to get into the types of roles and the jobs that will allow us to exert basically those skill sets and what Rebekah Neumann calls superpowers. Now, I know I went on and on and on and on about this. I do feel incredibly passionate about this topic, not only because I'm a parent and my child is going to be going to school in the next, 1 to 2 years. It's something that we're still in the process of figuring out of what is going to be the right school format for him that aligns a little bit more towards my thinking of what I think he should be doing in the direction and the skill sets he needs to be learning. But I would be really curious from you, especially if you're around the world. Has any of you come across really interesting school concepts that align more towards a very different way of teaching and developing children? I would be really, really interested to hear from you. So please leave me comments down below. I do believe that I want to create a community and a collective of sharing and learning with other parents and educators. I also know some of you will not agree with the approach. This is one way of approach of teaching children, and that's completely okay. I think that's the beauty of our world today, is that we should take in different ways of doing things. Don't have to agree with them, but it's just one way to explore how other people think about how to educate and teach our children. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next video.